the managers will do very well, and they'll do very well even if they fall on their face.
But you complain about the fact that they take 2% off the top, whether it does bad or good.
It's very interesting. Some of them would be running mutual funds where they get 0.5%, and with no performance fee, and then they go over to another field and they say, well, we're so good that we deserve a performance fee, but we now need 4 times a 2% minimum fee. Yeah. You know, otherwise it isn't worth us coming to the office in the morning.
You even suggested 20%. You know, there's a rising tide, and some of them will get 20% just because of that, rather than taking, as I think your deal is with Lou Simpson, you take 10% of something that does better than a certain standard.
That's exactly right. And the idea. Well, it'd be like going out to the racetrack, I mean, and a tout giving you touting a different horse to each of 10 people. I mean, he's going to get a winner. Well, if you set up a partnership in each of 10 years going out and you get 2 and 20, there's going to be 3 or 4 years there, where an orangutan would have made 25%, and then you get a big fee, and then the losses come, and the guy says, well, too bad, now we'll start another partnership.
But somebody must love them because the money is just flowing into them from pension funds and everywhere else.
Yeah, well, so I had a brother-in-law down in the stockyards in Omaha, and I said, what do you tell these farmers when they come in? You can sell their pigs, the other guy can sell their pigs. He says, Warren, it isn't how you sell them, it's how you tell them.
There's wisdom.
Warren, if people weren't so often wrong, we wouldn't be so rich.
He's finally explained it to me. Okay.
What are we going to be surprised has barely changed 50 years from now?
Human nature. Yeah, people will be doing exactly the same foolish things they do now.
I do think they created something that was probably unwise. They got countries in there that shouldn't have been there. You can't form a business partnership with your shiftless, drunken brother-in-law, I mean, you have to make your partnerships with somebody else. And I think they lowered their standards a little, and it's caused strains.
I think everything here is off the record, understand. Tom, incidentally, has a very low-key style, and Bobby Bowden a few years ago was in Lincoln, and he said that on their first date that Nancy had to slap Tom 3 times, and somebody said, was he that fresh? And she said, no, I was just checking to be sure he was alive. Tom had a fairly conservative offense for a time in the past, although it hasn't been so conservative the last few years, but somebody said at that time the most reckless thing he did was to eat some cottage cheese a day after the expiration on the carton. But then,
yeah, Warren, why don't you join me and buy some cows? I like your farmland, but you're in Nebraska for Iowa. You love steak. I mean, we can have leather. We can have manure. We can have milk. Yeah, we can have meat. We'll employ people.
You can have the manure. I'll take the meat.
I've got plenty of the manure. No, but we'll employ people taking care of the cows. I mean, that little bar of gold that's worth 50, whatever. We had one in here. Look, I think it was worth like $60,000 or $70,000. I can get like so many head of cattle for that and be productive. That was my point. But you like farmland. You just too lazy to take care of the cattle or something? Pay some people.
Absolutely. Have you ever tried to take care of cattle, Joe?
It must be. I think it might be hard. I know I've tipped a few, but I've never.
Have you tipped? No, I've never done it. I hope you have not tipped. That's mean.
It's cruel. It is cruel. They're sweet. They're sweet, but they're not too bright. Like me.
With land, you can get somebody else to do all the work, give them a percentage of the crop, and you can sit back there for 100 years and get a percentage of the crop, and you still got the land when you get all through.
So finding your own path seems very something you really recommend to everyone. The place where you can shine.
I'm arguing to everyone. What helps everyone is to get in something that's going up, and it just carries you along without much talent or work.
Currency that's out there that people say, oh, it might be the next big thing. What do you think?
I think it's rat poison.
Put him down as undecided. I probably shouldn't tell you this when Charlie was having a little trouble there on his last 2 words. I get a little worried about Charlie. Don't know whether I should talk about this, but I thought maybe he was losing his hearing, and I didn't want to confront him with it. I mean, we've been pals for a long time, so I went to the doctor and I said, Doc, I've got this wonderful partner, but I think maybe his hearing is going on him, and I don't want to talk to him about it. I mean, how do you say that to somebody you've known that long? And what should I do? He says, well, you stand across the room, talk to him in a normal course of tone of voice, and let me know what happens. So the next time I was with Charlie, I stood across the room and I said, Charlie, I think we ought to buy General Motors at 35. Do you agree? Not a flicker. I go halfway across the room. I said, Charlie, I think we ought to buy General Motors at 35. Do you agree? Nothing. Get right next to him, in his ear. Charlie, I think we ought to buy General Motors at 35. Do you agree? He said, for the third time, yes.
I think it would be unreasonable to expect that a successor would be as good at making new investments as Warren has been in the past. Well, that's just too damn bad.
He is operating with revenues based on market factors and costs that are not based on market factors, and that's a recipe for a lot of trouble. So I now have this 800 number, and if I ever get the urge to buy an airline stock, I dial this number and I say, my name is Warren, I'm an airaholic, and then this guy talks me down on the other end.
I think this kind of crazy speculation in enterprises not even found or picked out yet is a sign of an irritating bubble. It's just that the investment banking profession will sell shit as long as shit can be sold.
2 years ago, Fox Business asked you about Bitcoin when it was very, very much in its incipient stages, and you called it rat poison.
Yes.
Do you still feel that way?
I was holding back a little.
I live in a upper middle class neighborhood. It's a little higher middle class because I live in it in terms of the average income.
If a gun were held to your head and you had to invest in either BlackBerry right now or Bitcoin, which one?
Well, they asked a similar question of Samuel Johnson once, and he says, it's hard to determine an order of precedency between a louse and a flea.
I think it's crazy to take a job or work with people that cause your stomach to churn and keep you up at night and all of that. And if you're in a job like that, think about changing it. I've said that working with people you don't like in business is really like marrying for money, which is probably a bad idea under any circumstances, but it's crazy if you're already rich, right? So
I was born in 1930. I was conceived in 1929 because my dad was a stock salesman, and after the crash, he didn't have anything to do. Nobody. So I look back with great fondness on the 1929 crash. But
when people say, oh, the U.S. dollar's going away eventually, what do you say about that, Charlie?
Well, eventually everything goes away. The earth blows up, the solar system disappears. So eventually, on any time scale that's of interest to me, I want more U.S. dollars, not less.
5 years ago, we asked Charlie Munger, we were sitting right there, what he thought of Bitcoin, and he said rat poison. Yeah. Back then it was about $100+ per Bitcoin. Today it's 9,000. Is it still rat poison?
Well, probably rat poison squared.
One thing we've learned is if it's clear that something is a mistake, is to fix it quickly. It doesn't get better while you wait.
Well, you called rat poison 5 years ago, right here in these chairs on Fox Business. You called it rat poison, but that was when it was about $150. Today it's 9,000. It had hit 19,000.
So it's more expensive rat poison.
I've read that you're not going to burden your children with the fortune that you've amassed.
That's not the word they use, but you've got the idea.
And we got thousands and thousands of emails. Some of them were absolutely brilliant. Others, I mean, yeah, we had one from the mascot, Bailey, of the Los Angeles Kings, and his question was, hey, Warren, can you give me $20? So,
I've heard that question before.
Yeah. I'm surprised they aim so low. All right, let's start.
That's high for me, actually.
Well, exactly, $5.